I'm going to start by introducing Thando Lukuko, the Network Node Coordinator for the South African Climate Action Network. SACAN is part of the Climate Action Network, a worldwide network of over 1,300 NGOs in over 130 countries. Thando, if I can hand over to you now.
Thanks, Glenn. Could you please confirm if you can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you well. Go ahead.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. And thank you to the organizers for giving me an opportunity. And then thank you as well for everyone for joining us. As Glenn has said, my name is Thando Lukuko. I'm the coordinator of SACAN for short. And really, my input, as it is outlined, is just on the status, I guess, of climate change and climate change reporting in South Africa from a civil society perspective. And really, I think from straight off the blocks, we could say there's certainly a lot more climate change reporting happening more frequently and more recently than there has been over the last few years and decades. And that has to be commended. And so for that, we appreciate it. And one of the things about climate change, I think that we're quickly learning is that, number one, it's such a rapidly changing environment that even the stories that are emerging, for instance, if you look at what happened in KZN, very quickly we're seeing how other impacts in other parts of the world are emerging, including in South Africa as well, like for instance, the droughts. What we don't see happen enough is trying to get a proper understanding or clear understanding of what, at least from a factual perspective, what is happening, and also what is how it relates to particularly the communities that are impacted by this, how civil society is working with those most impacted to try and alleviate some of those challenges, as compared to then what's called a business as usual type of case. Now, from our perspective, if we take some very, very specific examples, this week there was a story which came out. I'm not going to mention any specific publications, but just to say there was a briefing that came out from one of our colleagues in the business unity, and it spoke about the carbon tax issue. When we then later looked at, some days later, we looked at a recourse which was published by colleagues from civil society. The business one was on the front page, but yet the civil society piece was in the page 6 or 7 or something like that in the paper, which kind of gives this indication that certain voices are more important in the discourse of climate change than others, which I think is very much erroneous. And part of what we're excited about this exercise that Fossil Free is taking us through is there's outside of just the information of climate change, but there are stories, there are examples of things that organizations specifically are doing that provide a different perspective to what, for instance, is either a business perspective or the dominant narrative. And so for us, it's then how can we make the reporting or how rather can we encourage the reporting of climate change news to be more people-centric, specifically to those that are most impacted. And that doesn't matter from what background the person comes from, because climate change is a great equalizer. And so, yeah, there isn't a lot. I don't have a great deal of time, but just to say the last thing for us outside of then just making sure that the stories are captured correctly is then also to say, there's communities, there are people that are doing quite a great deal of good work out there, that their stories might not be as palatable, might not be as juicy, if I can use those terms, as some other stories, because I've come to understand, I'm not a media person, but I understand a little bit that certain stories sell more than others. And really what we're trying to do is trying to move the needle from the stories which are on the extreme right of what is considered newsworthy, and move that line a little bit more to the center so that we can get a wider girth of stories that are more impacted by climate change and make it more appealing to the everyday person. So this would be what we would share as some touch points. And then also always just referring back to, and I've seen it happening more and more frequently, always referring back to the organizations such as 350, such as Fossil Free, such as SACAN, who are the knowledgeable ones in the space outside of just those from business and the private sector specifically. Yeah, I think let me end there for now, for the sake of time, but I shall remain on for any questions if there will be. Thanks, Glenn. Thanks, David.
Thanks very much.